Guys Talking Ball podcast coming to you on a Friday afternoon special edition. It was such a hectic couple of days that we want to do a quick recap here. Grant and Ethan not available, so we did call in the A team. We brought in our good friend Hayden McDaniel of the Armchair Band. His team, he did have a team, since actually none of our teams from the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast was able to make it. We did have to bring in a guy whose team did make it. Hayden, if you don't remember, he was an Alabama fan. Yesterday did not go probably the way he wanted to. But the good news is he is an Alabama fan in enemy territory. He lives in Georgia. So he does have a little bit of bragging rights that he can at least brag this year that his team did win a playoff game this year. Something that Georgia fans they are going on a 3-year streak of not winning a playoff game. So Hayden, welcome on. How have you recovered? Are you past the drubbing that your team took yesterday?
First off, thanks for having me on as always. Love being on here with you, man. It's always fun talking it up with you. Um, by the fourth quarter, or honestly, I would say by halftime, I knew this game wasn't going to go the way I wanted it to. I was just hoping maybe in the second half we'd show a little bit of life. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Um, but yeah, I would say by about the fourth quarter, I was like, all right, I checked out. It was not worth my mental health. It was not worth my sanity to sit there and continue to watch something that just wasn't gonna. It was just honestly by midway through the third quarter, it was just pure torture. And so I mean, but sometimes you have those games, and it's like I can't remember who I told. Maybe it was you or who it was, but I felt like we were playing an old version. We were up against an old version of ourselves. So it was kind of humbling being that team that used to, you know, give those kind of ass kickings to have to receive one like that. Like the Georgia game, yes, the SEC championship game, we got our tails kicked. However, when you look back at certain situations in the SEC championship game, it was probably closer than the score indicated. Yesterday was just a straight up drilling. And I mean, there's just no two ways about it. And once we went for it on fourth down, inside the 40 or whatever, and it was 3-0, I did not have a lot of optimism because one, I didn't understand that. And two, you don't do something like that against a team that already doesn't make a lot of mistakes. You don't give them more opportunities to have success. And when we did that, I was like, okay, we have no idea this is not going to end well if we don't do something. And at the end of the day, it did not end well. But like you
No.
said, it was misery loves company. And after the Ole Miss Georgia game yesterday, and I mean, no disrespect to the Georgia fans out there, knowing that they kind of had to feel the same feeling I felt, it made it a little bit easier, especially going back to work today, not having to hear, "Oh, what happened to Bama?" without being like, "Well, what happened to Georgia?" So it was a bit more. The tension was not as much. It was not as strong today as it could have been.
Yeah, well, and since we're talking it, we'll just rip the Band-Aid off right now. We're going to be recapping all 4 college football quarterfinal games where, I would say 3 of the 4 were interesting. The Alabama-Indiana one, unfortunately, was not, which we'll start here. I was initially just going to go in order, but I suppose we'll just with the first 2 games on Saturday and then finish the 2 best ones that happened, the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. But yeah, Indiana, I mean, it felt like that after that first drive where you guys went out and sacked Mendoza twice, it was like, oh, the D-line came to play. You guys defense felt like it was locked in.
Absolutely. I thought, all right, we're going to get to this guy and we're at least going to make a game of this. And I thought, man, like that was very encouraging. 3 and out, basically, I think it was -5 yards in those 3 plays. And I thought, all right, we're going to go out there and we might win, we might not, but they're going to know that they've been in a dogfight. And then they drove down the field 85 yards and had to kick a field goal. That was huge. So the first two defensive stands were huge. And I thought, okay, it gave me a little bit of confidence that maybe we have a shot in this game. And not long after that, that's when the fourth down play happened. And after that, it was the splat, as Josh Pate likes to call it, the splattering ensued at that point in
Yeah,
Pasadena.
and that fourth down decision, it wasn't. I mean, we've seen some really dumb coaching in these playoffs, and that's example A potentially was going, because at that point in the game too, neither team really had any momentum of any sort. It was just kind of feeling it out, and you could tell that they were zoned in on Signetti's face, and you could tell that he knew exactly what they were going to do. They were ready. They had it snuffed out, and then that really was kind of the first momentum. And then after that, it was really no opportunity. And then it was 24-0 at halftime, or no, 17-0, and then to Alabama got the ball to start, and it was like, okay, we'll see what they do. And then they go 3-and-out, and then Indiana just dices them up and down the field, and Mendoza finds Surratt, and then Simpson went out with a elbow injury. And then after that, you saw a little bit of a life from Alabama when they brought in Austin Mack, who had a good first drive. And they got it to 24-3, and it was like, okay, well, maybe if we can get a stop, we can go down, get a score, make it a 2-score game going into the fourth, and keep them within at least a shot. And then Indiana just immediately goes down and they score. They just run the ball down Alabama's throat. I mean, at one point, Indiana had more rushing yards than Alabama had total yards. And I mean, that Kirk Herbstreit talked about it on the broadcast. And I mean, your ears had to be bleeding, where it was like, Alabama's just existing right now. That's all
Yeah.
they're doing. There was nothing that
Well,
had.
I have learned from one of my great co-hosts on my show, Jamie Cheek, when your team's playing, you mute the broadcast. And so I had that whole game, I had the whole broadcast muted. So I didn't have to hear stuff like that. And so it wouldn't drive me up the wall. But believe me, when I'm on Twitter and I'm scrolling through, I'm seeing those things. But Kirk Herbstreit's correct. I mean, we were just existing in that game. It's like we just showed up. Hey, we're in the Rose Bowl. We made it past the first round, and everything else was just anything else is just icing on the cake. And they just existed, and they got their tails kicked for 60 minutes. I don't know if they didn't expect that kind of physicality out of Indiana, and they had no response to it. I don't know if I really have no answer to why we played the way we played, um, and it was just a very poorly coached game from both sides of the ball, if I'm being 100% honest with you. And this is coming from someone who has quickly become a Kane Womack um, believer. Um, and then, but it was just poorly coached. Nothing seemed to be working. You saw a little bit of life when Austin Mack came in the game, but of course, at that point, it was already too little, too late. You weren't going to come back. We came back from 17 down on Oklahoma, but we had a lot of help. We had the pick six, we had the block punt. Those were factors in that game that changed the course of it to lead Alabama to come back. We needed something like that to have a shot. against Indiana, a team who doesn't make mistakes, that's just not going to happen. And so you already don't have the breaks that you're trying to catch. You're making too many mistakes. It's going to lead you to a night like last night, where it's going to be very long and very just a miserable 60 minutes. Probably the most miserable 60 minutes of a football game since January 7th, 2019. Was it 2019? Yeah, 2019. On my 24th birthday against Clemson in the national championship. It was more
Yeah, it
miserable than that,
was.
though.
Yeah, it almost like I don't. Maybe it's just speculation here, but do you think the factor there was still the factor of like Alabama going up against Indiana? Do you think like some of the play? I mean, you saw Nick Saban talk about his golfing buddies about how they can't wrap their head around Indiana being good at football. I wonder if that played a factor of it too, where it was like, oh, this team is for real. We got hit in the mouth. We don't know how to respond. But also though too, and we'll kind of wrap it up on this, but the like the Alabama, like this, the thing that I think as a fan that you have to be the most disappointed in was, the quit and just, and it was a theme all year was the lack of physicality and just inability to run the ball. I still remember my coaches talking about how when I was playing is running the ball is an attitude.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the Alabama doesn't have that, which is just it's disappointing. It's frustrating as a fan because the last, what was it, 17 years that Saban was the coach, that's what they built themselves on, was having
Right.
that tough physical attitude of, we're going to run through your face and there's nothing you can do about it. That's
Absolutely.
gone at Alabama. That's got to get changed fast.
And yes, that's disappointing. And for sure, it's absolutely disappointing. But you're kind of segueing into something I wanted to talk about. I was very optimistic in the post-game press conference, listening to Kalen DeBoer saying, "Hey, now we've got to surround ourselves with the right people." And when you say that kind of thing in a press conference after a loss like that, after a season of, you know, where your physicality wasn't the standard, um, it leads you to believe changes are coming, especially in the staff. And I mean, and that as a fan makes me feel good because, yes, making it to the quarterfinals in a year where you struggled to run the ball, you didn't have your best O line, and, like you just were not a complete team, and you were still able to make it to the round of 8. That's encouraging. However, Kalen DeBoer realizes, you know what, this isn't good enough. But this isn't good enough at Alabama, and we have to be more physical if we want to keep putting ourselves in this position to be successful year in and year out. So he's not content with the whole, okay, we made it to the round of 8, and guess what? We didn't run the ball well, and we weren't very physical at the line of scrimmage all year long. You know what? I'm not going to make any changes. No, he realizes I need to make changes because I want to get better because, yes, we made it to the round of 8 like that. Imagine if we had the ability to run the ball even 50% better than we did. Imagine if we were 50% more physical than we were. Where could this team go? And I think it's going to start with a change at the with the O-line coach. I think there's probably going to be a change in special teams. Maybe running backs coach. I could see that happening, especially because that's not one of his guys. I could see them hanging on to Ryan Grubb for one more year, and I would be okay with that because I do think Ryan Grubb is a pretty decent play caller. I don't think this was his problem necessarily this year, but I'm very curious to see how Kalen DeBoer sees it and how he approaches it going into the offseason, especially with the portal opening today and people jumping in and out of it like crazy already.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast in itself. Is a transfer portal, who's leaving, who's going. But let's go to the first game of the day on New Year's. is was the Oregon Oregon 23, Texas Tech 0, a game that I think a lot of people thought was going to be the best game of the weekend.
For sure.
And it was never felt like it was ever that close. I mean, Texas Tech, they didn't get a first down until halfway through the second quarter. And Oregon too. I mean, we could ask Nate this, but if I was a Duck fan, I would have been furious at some of the decision making of Dan Lanning, and obviously it didn't really play a factor into the game. And he's built his calling card on being aggressive and going for it, but at what point do you look over and it's like, yeah, our defense is dialed in. Let's not do anything stupid. Let's not give them a short field. Let's just take points when we get them. I mean, at halftime it was 6-0. It probably could have felt like it should have been closer to that 20-0 score ended up being, but some of his decision making kind of kept Texas Tech what felt like they were still game, and even when the defense was put in bad spots, the defense was put in bad spots. The offense took advantage. I mean, you look at the strip sack of Morton where Oregon got their first touchdown of the day. And I mean, the intercept turnovers, they just piled up, and Morton looked like he was scared like he was seeing ghosts. He had a game. And the other stat too is I don't have it in front of me, and it wasn't great on Oregon, but Oregon was a lot better on fourth down than what Texas Tech was, especially in those high crucial gotta have it moments. Oregon you look at the time of possession, Oregon had the ball for 38 minutes compared to Texas Tech's 22. And I mean, it's a defensive clinic. I think them giving up 34 points to James Madison in the first round gave Dan Lanning all that he needed for that defense to be locked in on Saturday, especially going up against a team that was averaging 42 and then you go shut them out. And they're going to need another defensive performance like that, because you look who's coming ahead. They've got a team that beat them earlier in the year and cost them a chance at the Big Ten title, cost them a chance for a bye in the playoff. So it's going to set up a very exciting matchup on Friday night. What were some of your thoughts on this, Hayden?
I will say I was kind of shocked. I mean, not shocked that Oregon won the game. Like I think you could have told me, hey, Texas Tech won this game by a touchdown. I wouldn't have been surprised. I think you would have told me, hey, Oregon won this game by a touchdown. Again, I wouldn't have been surprised. It was just the way Oregon. It was just it. It didn't even feel like Oregon. I don't want to say it didn't feel like Oregon dominated the game. It just felt like Texas Tech they just didn't know what to do. Oregon probably could have won this game probably by about 10 to 14 more points than they did. That's the scary part of this game. They dominated the game, even though Dan Lanning probably had his C coaching performance, like you kind of mentioned earlier. And that's scary to think about if going down the road. I have no answer for Texas Tech. I don't know what that was for 60 minutes. It just seemed like every time they moved the ball for what seemed like a play or two, the momentum would die because they would turn the ball over. And it was just one of those things. Like, I'm sitting there watching this game and I'm like, what am I watching? I mean, yeah, I'm watching Oregon dominate. I'm not surprised Oregon's winning this game, but it's just like, I don't know, man. It's the one game I probably don't know how to describe. Um, Someone said that was probably the worst quarterback performance of any quarterback in college football playoff history, and I probably would have to agree. Um, Maybe Max Duggar or Duggan in the 2022 national championship, but but the, I think I think this performance yesterday was pretty dang close.
Yeah, that national, that was just a complete mismatch.
Oh yeah,
Um, by all sorts, where everybody who had any knowledge of college football that year knew that was exactly what was going to happen. Be, uh, but yeah, I got Oregon. I thought because they moved the ball well. I thought they actually had a pretty good game plan offensively, and the defensive line for Texas Tech came to play.
oh yeah.
I mean, if you're the D coordinator for Texas Tech, you should be. You should. They should file. I think who was it? From the guy from Crane and Company said that you
Jake
should
Crane,
file a class action lawsuit against their offensive coordinator, and
100%
he's
agree.
absolutely right. I mean, Texas Tech did everything they could to keep them in the game.
Oh, for sure. The defense was that's one of the best defenses in the country, right there.
Yeah. Oh,
And
absolutely.
the fact that your offense played so poorly, and I mean, eventually, if you leave any defense out there long enough on the field, it you're gonna wear out and you're gonna just eventually fold. So I I didn't understand that. How do you have 4 weeks to prepare and that's the outcome? Like offense had the offense was atrocious. It was awful. Um, and I mean the like I said, the defense was, you know, holding the weight, carrying the team on their back. And I don't know, it was unbelievable. But yeah, I agree with Jake Crane. You off or defense coordinator should file a lawsuit against the offensive coordinator because that was terrible. I don't know if you're the offensive coordinator. I don't know how you aren't hiding in the back of the plane after that game. Like that was embarrassing.
He probably was.
Probably.
He probably was. I don't blame him, but yeah, that was there's not a whole lot left to talk about with that one, so we'll just keep moving here. Let's go to the New Year's Eve game, the last game played of 2024 or 2025, excuse me. Miami, the upset of Ohio State 24-14. And it was a common theme for the finals, Hayden, is the team that came out more physical and more aggressive in the trenches was the team that won the game. I mean, that was you could tell that Miami or Ohio State was going to be in for a dogfight. I had Ohio State in my predictions winning 2 scores because Ryan Day was taking over the play calling, and Ryan Day, I thought, and he said that this offense had another gear, and I thought they were going to be a little bit more aggressive, and it just turned out that they it just turned out that that was not the case at
Not at all.
all. And I mean, the you know, early on where it felt like they were kind of feeling him out, Beck had a couple of guys that were wide open, and he missed them in that first drive. But then after that first drive, Miami really dominated the first quarter where they outgained them 116 yards to 9. And I love the quote that Mario had in the after that first quarter interview, which needs to stop. The first and third quarter interviews need to go away.
They're terrible.
Halftime, fine. It's like, I don't want to talk to you. You could tell that the sideline reporter is like, I don't really want to bother you either because you're right in the middle of the game.
Right.
But, they asked him, how do you expect to win this rock fight? And all he says is, it's what we do. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a 4-quarter game. And, that first touchdown drive by Miami, it was 13 plays, 85 yards, 8 minutes, where Beck finds Fletcher on 3rd and 1. And then after the Ohio State, it was a horrible. Also, the difference in the game too was Miami's receivers were not afraid to go and block downfield, where a couple of some of those huge moments in the game where Ohio State needed some blowing downfield, they didn't have it. I mean, Smith completely whiffed on that pick six. Carneal Tate had a couple of other when they run the reverse to Jeremy Smith. It was a horrible block by Tate. And you look at the that final drive that Miami had of the game where they were able to put the game on ice. Their freshman Tony had two huge blocks that set up a long run by Fletcher, and then that set up the touchdown by Marty Brown. And special teams was also a factor. I mean, that drive, I mean, you look at before that final drive that Miami has, Ohio State gets called for an illegal formation. And on that punt, Miami would have been starting that drive at the 10. Smartly, Miami makes them re-kick. They end up, it was their second kick or punt and horrible, and they end up starting the drive at the 30. That's a 20-yard difference. And Miami was able to go down and score. Ended up being the difference. And what ended up, Ohio State, their offense didn't have another gear,
Right.
to do it consistently enough, which we were told all year is not this great defense. But what they miss is what was worrisome about Ohio State was their offensive line wasn't as good, and they have the backs that they had last year with Travion Junkins, both who also, because Ohio State likes to throw the ball, which means that their running backs are brought in more to protect. They didn't have they don't have the running backs that they had this year, not as good in pass protection as they were previous years.
Right.
And they also didn't have that game breaker that at running back like they had the last couple of years either, where they could break off those 30, 40-yard runs. This year, they were at the first time, if they had room and they weren't touched for 5 or 6 yards, then they were able to. But at the first sign of contact for these young running backs for Ohio State, they went down. They were tackled. They didn't have that game breaker at running back that they had last year.
No, I completely agree with that. Ohio State had such an easy time getting through, other than going to Michigan, what was probably one of the easier schedules of the whole entire college football playoff field. And then you see what they do against teams that match their physicality, if not more physical than they are. And against Indiana, they got beat. Against Miami, they got beat. And so it led me to wonder if this Ohio State, I mean, not necessarily were they frauds. They were a good team, but they weren't as good as I thought they were. And it just made that a little bit more interesting. It made me wonder, what if they had played a more challenging conference schedule? Again, had to go play an Oregon, had to go play, I don't know, a USC. So that was interesting. But anyway, that's a little bit off topic. I was very impressed. I wasn't as much. I mean, yes, I told you Ohio State's not as good as I thought they were. However, I did leave extremely impressed with Miami, or left that game with the thought of that. However, the Miami defensive line is unbelievable. They played an unbelievable game,
Ooh,
and
you needed that. Like that
yes,
was going to be the difference, and it was if they showed up and Carson Beck. I mean, this Ohio State fans at their peak is them talking about how well Carson Beck didn't play good, well, which I mean, stat wise, no, but he made the right pre snap decisions. You know, you look at that 3rd 10 where he didn't have anybody open, so he tucks it and runs and goes and trucks a dude. There was another one that he absolutely got that down, and then they review it, and somehow they say that he didn't reach the first down, which was I don't under rough week for officiating too.
oh yeah,
Uh,
for sure, for
but
sure.
uh, you know, it was, and that's the problem with these big conferences is there's they're too big where not everybody's going to get to play each other.
Right.
You know, and I I and it's too late. You can only do it in college football 26 now is go back to, you know, the Pac-12 goes back to a conference. The Big Ten goes to 14 teams, goes to divisions where you're playing the same number of teams every year. And I, I think Ohio State, I think they're still a legit team,
Oh yeah.
but and that's the problem with college football nowadays is everybody, it's like you lose a team, it's like, oh, this they've got outside of like outside of Georgia and Michigan, last time an undefeated team won a national title was 2013 when Florida State did it.
Actually, didn't Clemson in 2019?
Oh yeah, Clemson in 18
Yeah, 18,
did
19.
and a little bit more, but I mean, a lot more often than not, there is a team that's
No,
going to
for sure.
lose a game. And I mean, you look at the final 4 teams in and now, Indiana's the only team that hasn't lost.
Yeah.
But and you probably, had they have lost yesterday, I guarantee you Brandon Walker would have been the first person saying that, oh yeah, Indiana, they played a weak schedule that wasn't very good. They hid behind it. They beat an Ohio State team that wasn't very good. And they hid behind, they finally played a game from the SEC and they got beat.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Brandon Walker. Oh my gosh, that guy. I haven't even looked at his Twitter yesterday. I don't want to. Um, just because I know it's probably going to be a bunch of nonsense that, I mean, that's deserved, but it would still, probably get under my skin a little bit somehow. But um, I, I'm trying to wrap my head around this Miami team because it's like this is the same team that lost to an 8-4 Louisville team at home. This is the same team that lost to an 8-4 SMU team in 2 out of 3 weeks. And since then, it's just like it's felt like okay, like they're not, again, like Ohio State, they're not as good as I thought they were or that they were going to be. And you just kept waiting for them to kind of have that letdown moment that Miami's had since probably 2002 when they lost to this very same Ohio State team in a national championship. Um, However, I mean, I got to give them props, man. Like they have weathered that storm. They went and took care of some not easy road games. I mean, yeah, Virginia Tech's not very good, But going to Blacksburg when you've barely left the state of Florida all year and going out there and dominating in Blacksburg, that goes for something because Blacksburg is not an easy place to play. And then you go to Pitt the next week, both in unfavorable weather conditions because it's not 40 degrees in Miami this time of year. It's 85, sunny. Everybody's still on the beach and, enjoying their life. And they went on the road both weeks and I mean, won convincingly. And then they go on the road to in the first round of the playoffs. They go on the road to A&M and which another place that is very tough to play. It's very hostile. And you hold them to 3 points. Your defense holds them to 3 points. And you win the game. I mean, your offense didn't play great and it still hasn't played great. Um, in either game. I mean, in the Ohio State game, they did what they needed to do, but I mean, I give a lot of props to Miami. I give a lot of props to Mario Cristobal for addressing the need on defense at the end of last year, realizing, hey, this prevented us from getting a spot in the playoffs, taking care of that need. And now look where he's got Miami. He's got them one win away from playing for a national championship at Hard Rock Stadium, by the way, where they would be basically the home team. Um, just a lot of credit to Mario Cristobal, man. I mean, I always knew the dude was a decent coach. He's made some dumb decisions in the past, but it seems like he's learned from them. And I mean, props to him. I'm not a big Miami guy, but props to Mario Cristobal and props to that team for weathering the storm and getting to where they are now.
Yeah, well, that's been the key is Miami, and that's been Miami's knock. That's been Cristobal's knock is his coach teams is in these big moments, in these big games, they've beaten themselves.
Yeah,
Carson Beck, that was the knock on him is they've he's made the critical mistake in the critical moments that has cost them wins. They haven't done that. They've made good decisions, especially like that Texas A&M game. It's because the win was an absolute turned it into a field position game. And I talked about it on Tuesday or Monday when Grant and I recorded is that is a game, you're in a game where it's the conditions aren't ideal. It turns into a field position game and you're basically just trying to set yourself a punt's not a bad play. You're trying to set yourself up for in a position to where you could be successful and get into a spot where you can capitalize on some bad field position, take advantage of another team's mistakes. It's truly the Trent Dilfer line of you cannot win or lose games in the NFL and still win them. That's what that Miami Texas A&M game was into, and Miami didn't put themselves in those bad spots
no,
to lose the game. And it was the same thing on Wednesday night is they took care of football. They didn't have and I mean, yeah, some of it might have been luck. I mean, Tony had two fumbles that bounced right back into his lap. And you know what? You to get as far as you are as Miami is right now, or any team, you got to have some luck that bounces your way, and they
for
did.
sure.
Um, but I think Mario Cristobal. I think you got to the nickname Christofrod is done and
Oh
over
yeah,
after these last two games. He's always been a hell of a coach, and you can kind of see that tough, physical, I'm going to run through your face attitude place where it's tough to get those type of guys and get them to buy in. I mean, look at the professional team there. It's all sunshine and rainbows in Miami or for the Dolphins, but that Miami team is tough, physical, and watching that game on TV, the pops and the pads
oh
popping
yeah.
is how physical it hurt watching it.
My body was hurting watching some of those hits.
Yes.
Like my
Uh-huh.
legs. I think you and I were texting back and forth during that. I said my legs are hurting just watching these guys take their hits right now. I mean, it was just like, holy cow, unbelievable. Um, but we're gonna get this probably will segue into the final game we're going to talk about. But man,
Yeah,
I
let's
can't wait for that
let's
matchup
just go
Thursday
into it.
night. That's going to be. I cannot
Yes.
wait for that matchup. It's going to be two teams that are just on a psychopath roll right now, just playing out of their minds.
Yes. Ole Miss, though we'll just trend. I mean, it was it was the game of all the games that I thought were going to be blowouts. I thought it was going to be this one because we saw these two teams playing in October, and it felt like Ole Miss gave Georgia their best shot. And I said that I don't like the notion of guys that have to play or teams have to play perfect to win. And I didn't say, I don't think I said it. Maybe I did. I'd have to go back and listen. But I said you were going to need big games from Trinidad Cham and Kawan Lacey. And you got both of them.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Chambliss was sensational. I mean, he 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a couple of nice runs. And on the defensive end too, Ole Miss didn't force a punt in that first game. First two drives, Ole Miss forced punts, and I liked what they talked about on the broadcast. Is in that first game, Ole Miss felt like they were a little bit too complex. They felt like they gave they were guys were put in tough. They put them in tough spots where they were out there thinking. They simplified that defensive game plan where guys could just go out and play fast. That D line, I mean, you couldn't tell that there was a mismatch between Ole Miss and Georgia. Something that they, something that Ole Miss Kiffin coach team, they never ever really felt like they had that tough physical nature to them. It was always the creative scheme guys open. Where this Ole Miss team, they're physical, man.
Oh yeah.
They were not afraid to go hit. I mean, Gunnar Stockton, some of the shots that guy took was, I mean, especially that last drive where they were able to tie the game up. That was a tough physical game. And then Ole Miss, they did not. I mean, you look at like just the lack of situational awareness before half, where it was like, oh man, feels like this is where Georgia's going to take over. Where they were in field goal range, had to make field goal range, and I can't remember who the guy was. The receiver that just decides to not go out of bounds. They try to run a play, but it was fourth down, and then they try to sub on the field goal unit. It was too little, too late, and it was like, well, and it's the ball, so it very easily could have been 28-12. And to Ole Miss's credit, they regrouped, were able to get a stop out of half, and then they have the targeting call, and Ole Miss, Georgia, another wild stat. 53 straight wins when they were leading at halftime. That streak is snapped. That's the year of it must be the year that Georgia's streaks are snapped, because the home win streak to Alabama was snapped.
And that's the only streak not snapped by Alabama. And that kind of irritates me a little bit. But, good for Ole Miss.
And then right when it felt like, okay, Ole Miss kind of settled down, they give Georgia more momentum by going for it on 4th and 1, and then it gets stuffed at midfield. And then Georgia misses capitalizes it. Common theme is teams that make fewer mistakes wins. Ole Miss made fewer mistakes,
and probably
especially in the fourth quarter.
Probably overall Georgia probably made one more mistake, and that's not just a cliche. Georgia, literally, watching that game, felt like Georgia made one more mistake than Ole Miss, and that was the difference. But going back to halftime, when it was 21-12, this tablet I'm using to talk to you, to do this show right now, is what I was using to watch the game. and I just kind of had it set aside, and I fell asleep for a little bit during halftime, and woke up, and I was like, "Holy crap! It's a 2 point ball game." Ole Miss scores, they go get the 2 point conversion. It's 27-24, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And at that point, my body's kind of struggling to stay awake, but I'm doing the best I can. And it was about 2 or 3 minutes to go. My wife Peyton wakes me up. She goes, "Wake up!" She goes, "Are you awake?" And I'm like, "Kinda." She goes, "You're missing the best finish to a football game possible." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me." I said, because I honestly thought Georgia was just going to pull away, and I was just like, you know what? Don't need to keep myself awake for this. Um, gotta go back to work tomorrow. Um, so I was like, all right, I'm just laying rest my eyes a little bit, and little did I know, 3 minutes left in the game. I mean, it's still as competitive as it was, and that was the most roller coaster, probably 2 to 3 minutes of a football game that I have watched in a long time. And yeah, it was the fact that I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, man. Like it was, I'm pissed at myself for just thinking, oh, Georgia's going to run away with it and just kind of giving up on the game and not um and just letting it happen because then I missed some great moments of that game. But quickly thereafter, once the game was over, I went back and kind of filled the gaps of what I missed in the third and fourth quarter um, to to really see what happened. And man, just what an unbelievable, like you mentioned, Trinidad Chambliss, dude. Like what a dog. Like the fact,
Signing of the year.
oh, for sure. And the fact that Austin Simmons entered the portal this afternoon is leading me to believe that Chambliss might be staying in Oxford if he's not going to the draft. Um, but
I think it's trending that way. Yes.
but I mean, there's just one play that comes to mind from last night. It was like I think it was what 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and I mean the dude is running for his life on this play. I mean Georgia, the one on ones,
He
the
had like
Georgia,
3 plays in a row where he was running for his life.
and I mean the fact that he was just able to throw the ball downfield and I mean get Ole Miss the first down there, like just plays like that were the difference in this game. Most quarterbacks just give up on that play. Either they throw it away or they take the sack so that they don't, create a turnover. He just kept playing. And I mean, he played fearlessly. And I think that was the difference maker um, in this game. When you play teams like Georgia, when you play teams like Indiana, what used to be, what Alabama used to be, you cannot play scared. And Trinidad Chambliss did not play scared, especially coming off a loss that first time. He came in and was like, "No, we lost the first time, but we got a shot to do it again." I wouldn't even necessarily. I would say Georgia again in that game. Georgia, the first game, Georgia made a few, just very few less mistakes than Ole Miss did, and Georgia won the game. And in this game, Ole Miss was the one that made fewer mistakes, and it benefited from them. And they made those they made less mistakes because Trinidad Chambliss didn't panic and he didn't play scared. And look, I've been a Pete Golding critic for a very long time. He is the reason I almost broke a few things in 2022 when we lost to LSU, lost to Tennessee, and in those games. Um, but man, props to him for just keeping the morale of that team upbeat, given what they've gone through. Um, I mean, he's come in and he said, "We're not going to play scared." He said in his introduction when or not introduction, but when they announced that he's the head coach and they let him talk to the team, he said, "We're not going to play scared. That's not what we do." and they haven't played scared. And now they're heading to the semifinals in a game that I cannot wait to see. Like, this is going to be, man, unreal, unbelievable football game. I mean, this is one of the best defensive lines in the country going up against one of the most fearless offenses in the country. It's I cannot wait to see it. I cannot wait to see this game. Um, oh man, I get chills just thinking about it. As a college football fan, this is going to be just an absolute cinema on Thursday night in
Yep.
Glendale.
Well, and the other part of it too was you look back at the coaching decisions and Kirby's decision to go for it on his own 20-yard line where they were still up or they were just down 3. The defense to go for it and to not get it, which set him up where, I mean, it's a huge risk where you end up going 10 or going up, you end up going 10, and to their credit, they battled back. The other part of it was, but you just got to punt the ball there.
Yeah.
Your defense was playing well-ish. I mean, they got stops when they had to at times, and there were times they didn't. Yeah, it wasn't defense where it was just going up and down the field like that first game. Just punt all the way, put in your defense. And the other decision too was to throw the ball on that where Ole Miss didn't have any timeouts. Where if they just run the ball, it's down to basically 10 seconds, and all you're basically is a kickoff where you're not even giving Ole Miss a chance to get the ball back. The game's going to be going into overtime, and take your chances in overtime too. I mean, at that point, the offense had already scored 34 points. You know, they were going to find a way to score. And in that situation, I think I would have trusted Georgia's defense a lot more than I would have trusted Ole Miss's defense in that situation.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. And I'm going to go back after this show, after we're done, and I'm going to go back and rewatch the whole fourth quarter to kind of wrap my head around it because, like I said, I was struggling late in that game. But I don't know, like, and Jamie, our resident Georgia fan on our show, would tell you this too. It seems like Kirby's a great football coach. There's no doubt. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, right now in college football. However,
Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he's won 2 national championships.
They talked about it in the broadcast. Is he could retire today and he would have a spot reserved for him in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, and he'll probably win another national championship before his career's over. I don't know if he's going to last as long as Nick Saban did, and I think he's already said, I don't want to coach as long as he did. I don't want to. I just want to enjoy my life after a while, and good for him. However, there just seems to be moments in big games if he's not in control, if his team's not in control of the game, where he just overcoaches. It's happened multiple times against Alabama. It happened last night against Ole Miss. It just seems like he's just like, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna. And I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand it because it's like you're so confident and like you're so good in all these other situations, but you're in a situation right now where you probably can win the game, and you just come up with the wackiest idea. Happened in the first Alabama game. Georgia was driving down the field. Alabama finally stopped them in the red zone. And all you have to do is kick a field goal, and the game's tied, and you probably go into overtime. and Alabama hadn't scored the whole entire half. And instead you go for it, and Stockton gets sacked, and you don't have that opportunity the rest of the game. And Alabama goes on to win, and which leads to Alabama going to the SEC championship. And I'm sorry, I'm not trolling Georgia fans here, but it's the reason why Alabama was in the college football playoff to those Georgia fans that said Alabama didn't belong in. It's because Alabama went into Athens on September 27th and won that game, and that was the best win on Alabama, Notre Dame, or BYU's resume. That's the difference maker in what got Alabama into the college football playoff. And those Georgia fans that want to argue with me that Alabama didn't belong, that's why Alabama got in. So it's your fault Alabama got in the first place. But anyway, I digress. I say that to say, yeah, Kirby just goes in and, I mean, it just seems like every now and then he just makes some boneheaded decisions. And you're just like, wait, dude, like, everything was going to plan. Why would you overcomplicate this and put us in this situation? Why not just flip the field? Why not just take the points? Why not, do the thing you're supposed to do in that situation? And I don't understand it. I've never understood it. Great coach, probably the best, if not one of the best in college football, like I mentioned. But he has moments where he just, I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if it's him being just trying to find a way, trying to find a spark. It just, oh no.
Oh, we got him. He's back.
Sorry, yeah,
my
headphones died. Where was I?
You were talking about Kirby's decision making.
Yeah, it just seems
like decisions that. Oh,
it just seems like I keep losing you.
Headphones died. It wouldn't be a Three Guys Talking About podcast if we didn't have some type of technical difficulties on here.
It just means I'm part of the crew.
Yeah,
honorary.
It's a problem that a lot of coaches have is they overanalyze too many situations, and usually if they just stick with their gut, they probably end up with the outcome that they want. But and maybe the layoff had something to do with it, where it was they have all this time to prepare. They sit there and they think and they overanalyze too many things. Because I mean, you see that a lot.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's something that has something to do with the 25-day layoff. There's a reason why Indiana was the first team to win in this format. And I think sometimes it takes you a little bit to ramp up that physicality when you have much time off. There's got to be a way that you can do it in practice and find a way to ramp up that physicality to where you are ready to go at game time, because these teams that have won these playoff games, they look like they've played a game. They look like they're more juiced up. They're not afraid of the contact, where some of these teams with the bye, they've come out a little bit weak, or like just not quite ready to go. Which, I mean, that's a discussion too, but like the 24 days is way too much, especially when a team plays 10 days before.
Right.
That's the factor that I don't think people credit, and they have to fix it for in between the transfer portal. Like, the college football season should have ended yesterday in the Rose Bowl, where the national championship is they make that their marquee event, have the national title at 3:00 Eastern time on New Year's Day, and make it an event people would have similar to Super Bowl parties. And that would fix a lot of these issues as far as the calendar, coaches leaving, transfer portal windows, all of that. It would resolve all of that if they fix the calendar, but they won't. But that was it was a great way to Sugar Bowl was a great way to end New Year's Day, bring in the new year. We're gonna have some absolutely incredible games come Thursday and Friday. I'm not gonna be able to watch the game on Friday because I'll be on a plane, but the game on Thursday should be exciting.
Where are you heading now?
Is the
Where are you heading
Thursday
on
game? Is
Friday?
that I'm going to? I'll be in Arizona. I missed the Fiesta Bowl by like a day.
Dang.
Uh,
Going back to
but
Arizona. You seem to go to Arizona often.
yeah, no, it's our my dad and I, my and uncle and cousin. It's our annual golf trip down
Nice.
there. We do it every year and go go golf for 4 days and hang out. And
That's awesome.
unfortunately, like the weather, it's like a high 58 and 61 of the two on Friday and Saturday of the 2 days that I can see the weather for. So it'll be warmer than here, but not by a whole lot. It's
Right.
gonna be like in the 40s next week up here. So, but yeah, is it Miami, Ole Miss at the Fiesta Bowl,
Yeah,
correct? And it's
Miami, Ole
Oregon,
Miss, and the
Indiana. Okay,
Miami, Ole Miss, and the Fiesta Bowl. Oregon and Indiana and Atlanta for the Peach Bowl.
got it. Okay, well, both games should be good. I'm not sure when we'll be recording next week. It'll either be Tuesday or Wednesday. For us to preview the semifinals. It's also going to be playoff. We'll be previewing some playoff NFL games as well. But Hayden, let you plug your where people can find your show at and plug your socials.
Yeah, for sure. Armchair Banner on TikTok. You can follow us on subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. We have an Instagram, but I have not used that in a long time. I don't use Instagram very much, period. And I'm trying to think where else. Oh, Twitter, X. You can always follow us on there. I'll tweet some random stuff from time to time, especially during games. And hopefully, we will be going live this week finally after all the craziness of Christmas break and everyone, besides myself, but the other two having kids and stuff. That during Christmas time makes for finding time to record a little bit more difficult. Um, but hopefully we'll be recording sometime this week. If not, we potentially could be going live on Thursday night during the semifinal games, and then potentially again on Friday night. So if you're not doing anything and you want to watch a good stream, and you're tired of hearing the broadcasters run their mouths, and you just want to see a bunch of guys shooting the shit, tune in and we'll have a good time.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Well, you guys know where to find me. 3GTV podcast. Thank you again to Hayden for joining me on this special edition college football quarterfinal recap. And we will see you sometime midweek.